All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be learning about 2.2, which is adding rational numbers. Now, 2.2 is pretty much just an extension of 1.2, except rather than using integers, we're going to be using rational numbers. So our learning target for today is going to be, I will be able to add rational numbers. Please make sure your composition notebook is out and you are writing everything that I am writing on the screen. Your notebook should look exactly like my screen. If you need to pause to write, that is totally fine. Okay, so let's get started. So adding rational numbers. The rule is pretty straightforward. To add rational numbers, use the same rules for signs as you used for integers. And just to refresh your memory in case you forgot, the rule was you are going to subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value, and then you're going to take the sign of the greater absolute value, okay? So right here, you can kind of see, okay, they took the absolute value of negative 1/3, which is 1/3. Then they took the absolute value of 1/6, which is 1/6. We're going to have to be working with fractions a little bit, okay? And so over here, in order to see which fraction is bigger, you might not know right off the top of your head. So 1/3 and 1/6. What I want to do is I want to make the denominator the same. So what do I need to multiply by 3 to get 6? I need to multiply 2. Okay, I can't just multiply the bottom, I also need to multiply the top. That's going to give me 2/6, okay? Now I can compare these two fractions. Which one's bigger? Well, let's take a peek. They have the same denominator. So to tell which one's bigger, we have to look at the numerator. I know 2 is bigger than 1. Therefore, I know that this is going to be the greater absolute value. This is going to be the lesser absolute value, okay? We also need common denominators for when we add and subtract fractions. We learned that in 6th grade. So if I am taking the lesser absolute value, which is 1/6, and subtracting it from 2/6, we would have 2/6 minus 1/6. Well, remember our rule. All we do is we subtract the numerators. Our denominator stays the same. 2 minus 1 is 1, so I have 1/6. Then remember the last part of our rule. We want to use the sign of the greater absolute value. So remember, this was our greater absolute value. And if we go back here, it was actually a negative. So we want to make sure that we turn this into a negative. All right, just like that. And we get negative 1/6. Okay, let's take a peek at the first example. Adding rational numbers. Find negative 8/3 plus 5/6. So to begin, I am going to take the absolute value of negative 8/3, which is going to give me a positive 8/3. And then I'm also going to take the absolute value of 5/6, which gives me a positive 5/6. Okay, well, we need to find a common denominator, okay? So I'm going to put 8/3 right here and 5/6 right here. We need a common denominator. So let's go to our smaller number, 3. What could we do to, what could we multiply 3 by in order to get 6? Well, it's the same as our above example. We can multiply it by 2. But remember, if we multiply it by the bottom, we also have to multiply the top by it. So 8 times 2 is going to give me 16 over 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, once we have the same denominator, the only thing we need to compare is our numerators to see which one's bigger. And as you can see, 16 is bigger than 5. Therefore, this is greater than 5/6, okay? So this is our greater absolute value. This is our lesser absolute value. So now let's follow the rules that we learned in 1.2. We're going to subtract the lesser absolute value, which is 5/6, from the greater absolute value, which is 8/3. Now remember, we need the same denominator when we are adding and subtracting fractions. So I am going to be using this, which is equivalent to 8/3, but it has a common denominator with my 5/6. So I'm going to write down 16/6 plus, or no, we subtract, that is my fault. We are subtracting, because that's our rule, we subtract the lesser from the greater, subtract 5/6 from that. All right, then remember, our denominator stays the same, it's 6. And we have 16 minus 5, which I know 16 minus 5 is going to give me 11 over 6. We have one last step. We need to take the sign of the greater absolute value. This is the greater absolute value, so I need to come over here. It's a negative sign. So that means that my answer is going to be negative 11 over 6. Now, when we're working with fractions, we need to, before we say this is our final answer, we need to do a couple things. We need to think, can we simplify this? Well, 11 is a prime number. That means that I can't divide 11 by anything except 11 in itself. So therefore, I can't simplify this fraction. What I could do, though, is I could make it a mixed number. So 6, I know 6 times 2 is 12. Well, we don't really have enough for 12. So I know it's going to be negative 1. I can make one whole, and then I'm going to have 5 left over. So it's going to be 5 over 6. So either answer is okay, but those are your two options. All right, and then finally, we have example 2, adding rational numbers. Now we have decimals, okay? So for this one, we are going to have negative 4.05 plus 7.62, okay? Take the absolute value of these. Absolute value of negative 4.05 is going to give me positive 4.05, and the absolute value of 7.62 is going to give me a positive 7.62. Now, this is greater, this is lesser. So we're going to do our subtraction. 7.62. Now, I'm going to put my subtraction like this so that it's easier for me to do it since I'm not using a calculator. So now 2 minus 5. Well, I need to borrow from the 6 because I don't have enough. So I'm going to turn this into 12. I borrowed 1 from the 6. 12 minus 5 is going to give me 7. 5 minus 0 is going to give me 5. Decimal, remember the decimal comes down, and 7 minus 4 is going to give me 3. So I get 3.57. Then the last thing I need to do is I need to look back and take the sign of the greater absolute value. If I look here, it's a positive 7.62. Therefore, our sign is going to stay the same. So my answer is going to be a positive 3.57. All right. I want you to scroll down, and on your own, I would like you to do these 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And a rule in my class, if it is given to you in fractions, I expect that you keep it in fractions. Okay? So keep your work in fractions. I do not want you turning them into decimals. So go ahead, pause your screen, and get started on 1, 2, and 3. Okie doke. We are going to check our answers. So for number 1, you should have gotten negative 5 over 8. For number 2, you should have gotten 1/3. Now with this one, you should have turned this one into an improper fraction. If you need help with that, please come see me. So this should have been 1/3. Number 3, you should turn this into a fraction. Remember, a whole number, to make it a fraction, you just put it over 1. Okay? And for 3, you would get negative 1 and 1/2. All right. Now let's scroll down, and we're going to just look at our last example, which is evaluate this expression, and we're given values. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to write, 2x plus y, write this with me, equals. Now I'm going to write the same thing on here, and I'm going to show my work going down. So 2, I'm going to plug in whatever x equals into my parentheses. I know x is 1/4, so I'm going to plug in 1/4 right here. Then plus y. Rather than writing y, I'm going to write what I know y equals, which is negative 3 over 2. All right. Now, 2 times 1/4. Well, I know 2, to make it a fraction, it's 2 over 1. times 1/4, okay, plus -3/2. Well, I know that 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 4 is 4. So that's 2/4 plus -3/2. But just a reminder, I can simplify this fraction. I could divide both of these by 2. If I divide both of these by 2, divided by 2, divided by 2, I would get 1/2, 1/2. Okay? And then finally, all I have to do, I'm going to move it over up here. All I have to do is 1/2 plus -3/2. And just a reminder, the negative sign we're going to keep up in the numerator. So that's going to be 1. The negative sign always overpowers the positive sign. So it's going to be 1 minus 3/2. Okay? I know that 1 minus 3, well, think about it on a number line. If we are at 1 on the number line and we're right here at 1 and it says subtract 3, we want to go to the left 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, that would be subtracting 3, which that would give us -2. So I know 1 minus 3 is going to give me -2/2, and -2/2 is going to give me -1. All right, so those are the notes for today. If you have questions, please email me and set up a time to meet with me. We will be working on the assignment in class. Nice job.